okay, what on earth is this idea? But he wants to go for b3 and bishop b2. So Topalov played queen a5, preventing that. e3 by Wesley. And now Topalov voluntarily gives up his bishop on c3 and follows it up by bishop to d7. What do you think of this opening, David, by Topalov?
I mean, I'm a bishop lover. I kind of hate it. I guess it's somehow related to like that Gingy Indian kind of idea, where you play bishop g7 and c5 in the opening against knight c3, d4, and when white plays d5, just take and then play f5 controlling e4. The big difference is this pawn back on d3 instead of d5, which I think favors white, because when you've got doubled pawns, I think you don't want your pawn next to it to get ahead of them too much. So here there's more flexibility in white's pawn center, and I would really like white's position.
Right, yeah, and because of that, yes, you make a very good point. You never want to play d4 because then c4 becomes incredibly weak. So I would think white should always be looking at pushing the move, at pushing e4, so he can then activate the dark square bishop. Because that's really white's main problem piece, and that's why in a lot of these positions, black often does play the move f5. So I'm very surprised that Wesley played knight f3, but we have a lot of moves.
A lot of moves,
c7. And after the move h6, the knight drops back to f3. I would think that black should be doing fine here. b6 might look weird, but there's no way for white to take advantage of the long diagonal.
I mean, the only way would be like knight on b3, a5.
Right, but it does feel slow, and if white goes knight d2, black then can consider g5 and e5 and try to break open the king side.
Yeah, so white has to watch the whole board. So far, the bishop on c1 is not looking like a good thing for white's position. It's not showing any power just yet, and you mentioned that maybe look for the move e4 to bring out the bishop much earlier, but now with the pawn on f4 and the bishop blocked on g2, I mean, we don't even have the power to play e4, so I'm not sure what to do for white's position.
Yeah, as we talked about earlier, the light squared bishop, the dark squared bishop on c1 is really white's only problem piece, and it's still not solved yet. e4 seems very difficult to achieve, and even if you do, I mean, there's still the pawn on f4 that's sort of blocking in that bishop, but we do have more moves, a4 and knight a5 by Topalov.
Yeah,
so
he's like, that was my plan anyway, get blockaded.
Right, yeah.
Get blockaded.
Indeed, and now he's hitting the pawn on a4, and Topalov has also managed to catch up a little bit on the clock, closing the gap down to 2 minutes.
Yeah. Also, I think, partly because it's like a rapid game, you almost don't, as black, want to entertain the question of, is a5 a good pawn sack for white, right? a5, knight a5, you get the pawn. Like, why deal with that? He immediately blockades that thing, right?
Right, and we see queen c2 by Wesley, bishop c6. Yeah, black's queenside looks extremely solid. I don't see a way for white to ever break through. I mean, you would have to go knight d2 to b3. Well, first of all, you allow the trade on g2. I'm not sure if that's really what you want to do. Oh, and Wesley goes rook b5.
Yeah.
But Topalov is like, I don't care. He just goes rook g8, and
yeah,
I like it. I mean, rook b5 is not doing anything, I don't think.
Right. I mean, I think he could take, but honestly, if he doesn't, the play is easier, which is very important. I think even for like a super GM, if you're playing a blitz game, why not have like an easier game plan? Basically, white needs to play knight d2 to b3. You'll trade that bishop and play g5. Very easy life for black.
Indeed, and yeah, g5 is a nice plan. Also to move e5, perhaps followed up by e4, shattering white's pawn structure.
Ouch.
And Wesley is really struggling here. Topalov only 1.5 minutes behind on the clock.
Yeah. So overall, Topalov's used 2 minutes so far, Wesley 3.5, so he's getting a little bit back on time. There was one hilarious Armageddon game. I don't know if you saw this, Benjamin, but Topalov was playing black against Aryan Tari, and he used like a minute, and Tari used like 9 minutes. And
what?
And so it's like Topalov was just playing every move instantly, like the whole game. It was just, I've never seen such a differential. And he also was winning on the board. Like, he won 1 pawn, then 2, then 3, then 4. He was up 4 pawns for nothing, like not a doubled pawn in sight. Perfect pawn structure, everything. And then he gave like a perpetual check. Like, it was minus, 10 or whatever. But he had the draw odds from the Armageddon. And he just like spent no time on this game. He just boom, 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 boom.
Oh, there was, I think that was against Rajabov? Yeah, it was against Rajabov.
Oh, Rajabov?
Yeah, it was against Rajabov. He had Topalov, he spent barely any time. And Rajabov
Yes, it was
spent all of
Rajabov,
his
yeah.
time, but he just used the perpetual, yeah.
Exactly, Rajabov, yeah. Where he played the semi-Slav in the second game. Here, it looks like he's got a very easy life again.
Yeah, but I mean, it's very understandable. If you're in an Armageddon and you see perpetual, you just take it, because it's basically a win.
Yeah. Okay, White's achieved e4 finally.
Okay, so yeah, that's at least an achievement for Wesley. He's putting pressure on opponent f5, and now perhaps that bishop on c1 can come to life. So let's see, Topalov could still go for, let's say, h5, h4 to put further pressure on White's king side.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe h5, h4, but is White threatening to take this pawn? I guess then your rook would come open, so h5 would be good in that situation.
Right, but of course it is tricky. Yeah, Topalov could also go knight g4, threatening knight e3, but we see him going queen at d7. So let's see. Wesley is still up a minute on the clock here. I guess taking on f5, like, just recaptures, that works out in Black's favor. So maybe Wesley has to move the knight and hit the pawn on h6.
And knight b3 is the main plan for White, right? I mean, we need to break through b6 and c5 at some point, so knight b3 to play a5. It feels like the best position Wesley's had yet this game.
Yeah, oh, but instead he sacked an a5 and went for knight b3. Very interesting, he's hitting the c5 pawn and the a5 pawn.
The knight was so close, but he just couldn't wait. He sacks the rook, and
A by Topalov, but take on c6, queen c6.
gives c5.
Right, so
We've
if you
got
go bishop
mess.
e3, then fe. And it is becoming very messy now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
what is Wesley gonna do? I think bishop e3. Okay, he goes knight b3. Okay, what about fe now? On d4 instantly by Wesley.
Oh, he's gonna get rid of this pawn, and his bishop's gonna have an extra option on f4. Queen c4 can't be played because the knight's hanging, I imagine. The game's getting sharp, and Wesley has regained a tiny time advantage after having lost the entire time advantage earlier. Pushes e3.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting move by Topalov. So let's say White goes d5 here. Can we take on c4, rook takes f6, and maybe make e2 work?
Bishop d2, rook d5. That e-pawn looks fairly strong.
Oh,
Fairly strong. They've done something else. No, they've done this. d5, queen c4, rook f6, e2.
so e1 is a huge threat. White, I guess, cannot play king f2 due to rook d f8 or the other one.
Yeah.
And you simply cannot, keep the f file close, so White just loses.
Yeah.
So you would have to play bishop d2, but then can we take with the rook or with the queen on d5 and put pressure on that bishop?
Yeah, I think so. Because it's hard for White to use these pieces, and we're preparing bishop e1, rook d1 to increase the pressure, so I think that makes sense. I'm surprised. I feel like Wesley, and these moves have just been played, bishop d2, rook d5. I feel like Wesley was so close to having a decent position with knight b3, and then he did this weird exchange sack and this d5. I mean, it just got so messy here for him.
Yeah, well, you would think that, a mess is good for him because he's in a must-win situation. But I don't know, it seems to be working out in Topalov's favor. Bishop e1, it's still very unclear, so I guess rook d1 looks very natural. It's probably a move you play within a second in a blitz game.
Yeah.
White has to play king f2 only move, But then I don't quite see a breakthrough for black.
Mm-hmm. So that's why he's having a think here.
Oh, and rook d8. I like that move, because now if white takes an e2, we can take on b3, and never mind, the rook on d1 was protected anyway by the queen.
Yeah, I was thinking of the idea of e4 here as well, to sort of try and play e3 check.
He's threatening rook takes e1. King takes on rook d1. That's a huge threat.
That's a very clear threat.
White has to do something. I mean, knight takes
against
e5.
knight d2, he can take it, and then he's got rook f1.
Oh, rook f1, right. Yeah.
So knight d2 loses instantly here.
So knight e2 loses. I mean, knight takes a5 runs to queen c5. You don't want to do that. Maybe queen takes g6. But then we can just pick up the knight.
It's played.
Right? I mean,
Queen g6.
And queen takes b3 is on the board as well. I mean, I don't think there's anything for white. I mean, rook c6, just king b7 or b8, and looks fine to me. And rook takes e1 is still a huge
queen
threat.
f5 has been tried. So on king d8, there's queen e5 opening up some diagonals. This looks vaguely hopeless.
Right, so let's see.
Wesley the king. Black also has draw odds, by the way. So even a perpetual, Topalov could allow a perpetual for white. He doesn't even need to cover his king.
Indeed, and Topalov's even up on the clock here. So let's say, queen e4 looks like a natural move here for Wesley. Does black have to... Okay, Topalov on queen b7 and queen takes e2. Maybe a rook b1 followed by rook to b2. Oh wait, after queen takes e2, here queen b7 was played. Never mind, I thought it was black's move for some reason.
Yeah.
No, I thought queen e4, queen b7, and then takes happened, but that's not the case.
But he just directly took the pawn here. Black put the queen covering the king on the light square diagonal.
Rook takes
and
h6.
he grabs another pawn on h6.
That looks like a very difficult threat to deal with. I don't see how white is stopping at king g1.
Now the rook's can double on d1, right, against this move? Oh no, rook h8? Rook h8.
Black has a lot of good options here. Black could go rook b2, but there's also rook takes e1, queen takes and queen f3, and I don't see how you're stopping rook to d1.
Wow, that is evil. Rook e1, folks, is Benjamin's idea, and then queen f3. That's a killer shot, but he didn't find it.
But what he did was also looks very good. He went rook b2, queen f1, rook e8, rook f6.
Rook e1 at some point, or rook f6.
Rook b1, this looks very clean. I don't see how you defend e1, and if you go rook f8, we just go rook takes e1, and then if you take an e8, we recapture the rook. King f2 by Wesley. But at the very least, you can... there's still one trick. If you take twice, then there's rook f8 at the end. Oh, wait, he took?
He took.
Oh, but there's queen b2. There's queen b2.
Queen b2 here before recapturing the queen, and Wesley has resigned point to Topalov, or half point, extra half point here, and black takes an Armageddon, and we've got a result in a classical game.